These are all chemical formulas. They tell us what atoms are being used and how many of each atom. For example, calcium chloride. There is only one calcium and two chlorides. Today we're going to learn how to calculate molar mass. But before we learn molar mass, you need to figure out what formula mass is. So it's the sum of the average atomic masses of all atoms in a formula. To calculate the formula mass, you need to find or use a periodic table to find the average atomic mass of each one, and it's the number on the very bottom. Like for example, hydrogen, its average atomic mass is 1.00794. Okay, so for these purposes, we have rounded hydrogen, the average atomic mass it's going to be 1.01, and then for oxygen 16.00, okay? And we're going to figure out the formula masses for H2O. And this is how you do it. Okay, so we have two hydrogen atoms, so you're going to write it like this. Two hydrogen atoms. And each hydrogen atom has an average atomic mass of 1.01. So you're going to write that down. You see? And then you just calculate it. These hydrogen atoms cancel out with these hydrogen atoms. And your answer is, for hydrogen, 2.02. Now we got to calculate for oxygen. So we write this, set it up. Show you that's a 1. One oxygen atom, and you multiply it because there's 16 average atomic mass for one oxygen atom. You work it out. Okay, but we're not done. Now all we do is we're just going to add the two masses that we got, because we totaled up our hydrogen and we totaled up our oxygen. And so you add them. And it looks like this. 18.02 is the average mass of H2O. Okay, so now find the formula mass of potassium chlorate. Alright, so now after you've calculated for each one, you're going to add all the masses together. After you add them, you get 122.5 AMU for the formula mass of KClO3, in other words, potassium chlorate. Okay, so on a sheet of paper, write these three down and work them out. Now, pay close attention to number 3. You've got to distribute this 2 right here. So it's 2 times this 3. So there are actually 6 O's. 2 times this 1. So there are actually 2 N's. And of course just 1 Ca. Alright, now what you need to write about is what a mole is. A mole is the amount of a substance that contains as many particles. A mole is just a unit of measurement. And mole, we usually write it abbreviated MOL. Okay, now the number of particles in a mole is going to be a very, very, very large number. But remember that these guys are super small. But the number is 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd. This number is also known as Avogadro's number. And you'll forever hear this in chemistry or in science. Okay? Alright, so let's move on. Okay, now, so you can understand this. 1 mole which we know it has 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd particles. So 1 mole of carbon, if we're talking about carbon, it has a mass of 12 grams. Where did I get this 12 grams from? Well, go back to your periodic table. Okay, so if you go back to your periodic table and we're talking about carbon, this carbon here, its atomic mass, its average atomic mass is 12.0107. This is what we're talking about. So this mass is also the same amount of grams in 1 mole. So 1 mole of carbon is 12, if we're going to round it, it's 12 grams. Okay, so 1 mole of an element, whatever element it is, it equals the element's mass. Okay, so if we're talking about, and you're looking at your periodic table, if I say 1 mole of fluorine, well, that's going to have 18.99 grams. So 18.99 grams is equal to 1 mole of fluorine. We call this molar mass. So now we're going to calculate how to figure out molar mass, okay? Alright, so what if I asked you, what if we have 2 moles of helium? Could you figure out how many grams that would be? So how many grams of helium are there in 2 moles of helium? Okay, this is how you would work it out. So if you have 2 moles of helium, oops, I forgot my, I'll just write it in red, of helium, and you want to figure out how many grams that would be. Well, in 1 mole of helium, it's 4 grams. You just look it up on the periodic table. So you multiply across, and what you're going to get is 8 grams of helium are found in 2 moles of helium. Okay, so find how many, or find what is the mass in grams of each of these moles of copper, of nickel, and of iron on your own paper. Now, what if I gave you barium nitrate? Could you figure out the molar mass of this molecule? So you'd have this. You have 1 mole of barium, because you only have 1 atom of barium, and you have 2 moles of nitrogen, because remember, you have to distribute that 2 that's on the outside. So you have 2 moles of nitrogen, and then since you distributed the 2, now you have 6 moles of oxygen. And then you total all that up. Those things cancel out, and all you're going to get is grams. And my grams and my grams. And the total should be 261.35 grams per 1 mole of barium nitrate.